I mentioned to Victor for over a year that I wanted to do a scene in Spanish, and I think that what we got was just phenomenal. So I want to thank you guys. It was really terrific, and it's very, very moving. So I don't know if you want to, Victor, I guess you can start by just talking about how you came into our world and how this all developed and the experience of working on this scene. Just jump in and tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely,
right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I basically, the way that it all came to be, I mean, well, you know that we have our story, and we actually talked about it on the other panel about how we came to meet you, but which was kind of like very sort of meant to be circumstance, and you know, fast forward all these years later, we're still working together and involved and kind of developing the story of Borges even more, which I really appreciate, because it's a beautiful thing to be able to portray the thriving of different cultures and different languages, going beyond the limit, you know, the frontier of planet Earth, and going beyond that. So the idea of the story and getting to have a scene in Spanish was definitely something that we talked about. I remember we actually even met by the Grove or something when one of the first times that we had a conversation about it. And you were very eager, like you wanted to try to see, like thinking of ways to showcase more about his story and who he is in his identity. And so when the opportunity came and you were like, oh, if you know any actors, I liked, even though we kind of referenced Mexico, which I love, I also love the fact that the people that we got involved with the story, Carlos and Doris, they actually are of Venezuelan origin as well, like myself. So I love the opportunity to be able to say, you know, there is a Venezuelan connection and representation in this story that makes me very happy, especially because coming from that country and with this whole situation that is happening, the idea of in the future, despite all the struggles of today, we have this outcome. We have these people that are going beyond, and they are space fleets, and they're going and thriving, and their culture is still there, their accent is still there, their language and everything. That makes me incredibly happy. So I'm very excited.
That's great. That's great. And go ahead, Carlos, please.
Oh yeah. I'm just grateful because even though I've been doing this for 20 some years, I've never in my life have been involved in a science fiction project, you know? So it was kind of like a unique experience. First, because of that, because, you know, I'm a sci-fi lover. I've watched all the episodes of Star Trek and a lot of, you know, sci-fi TV series. And I had never had the chance to be one of them. And so I was kind of lucky that Victor, you know, recommended me and that you accepted me, you know, so to be in this episode. So for me, it was a great experience. And on the top of that, you know, I mean, it was kind of weird because there was not a crew. There weren't you there, you know, I mean, it was like, it was really weird, but it was great. It was great. He came out really well. So I'm just happy. And something else, Mark, I mean, I love the way you write. And I know that you wanted to put a lot of information about these human beings in that scene that were really important. And you managed to do it in like 8 minutes or something like that. I mean, there was a lot of information about the lives of these people. And we tried to do the best we could as far as, you know, giving it truth to it, you know, giving, I mean, trying to portray this human beings in a very nice light. And at the same time, you know, just going through all the turmoil that they were going through, you know, as a parent and as a son. And also because when I read the scene, I felt like these were Latin people portrayed in a really positive light. I mean, not stereotypes type of Latin people. And that was what I loved the most. I mean, you know, the character that Victor portrays, I mean, he's a pilot, a scientist. He's trying to do this big, huge thing about humanity, you know, and I love that. And you know, I'm a shoemaker. I'm not, you know, anything
Yeah.
else, that, and so so it was great. I'm really grateful that I had the chance to do it.
Yeah, it was great fun. I was really glad that all three of you I thought were great. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the episode because it is so human. It's simply about a father and his son and the fiancée, and it's about them coming to a better place through the conversation. And and there's all these different surprises throughout. And a lot of it came from, I wrote a book with Guillermo del Toro, and a lot of the details came from sort of his family background, like winning the lottery and the encyclopedias and all that stuff. And it was just, I was very interested in all those the flow of that scene, the notion that both you and Victor's character have the line, "It's not me." Like when you're saying, "Well, you could have been a pharmacist, you could have been this or that," you're saying, "It's not me," and it's like, "Well, Dad, why don't you come to Mars?" "Well, that's not me," and it's about people kind of going outside their comfort zone for each other, and I really love that. And again, as you say, it wasn't denying the history of the characters or the fact that they're Latino. That was an added strength, because within science fiction, I'm always very aware of, science fiction allows us to not go into the racist nonsense of American television. You don't have to write all the stereotypes. But also in choosing not to write the stereotypes, that doesn't mean you go to the other extreme and everyone's just kind of like homogenized to a point where they don't have a culture, they don't have a history. And so it's finding that point of authenticity where you're working within a science fiction context, but also these are people that you can recognize and that have a life and have a depth and have a history. And so I loved writing it, and I loved seeing you guys make it live. That was really, really fun. And I was glad that you grew up the beard and all of that.
That's a really tough thing to do, Mark, and you did a great job. So I congratulate you.
Yeah.
For real, man.
I remember, Mark, when we were talking, that you sent me the script, you're like, "Hey, you're going to be playing Gloria." I remember one of the things that I commented about was the fact that my character actually poked fun at my fiance, that I'm like, "Oh, I'm a little bit of rank than he is." And I remember mentioning that to you. You mentioned like that you like to write very strong characters for females. I'm like, saying, I've gotten the chance to be in one sci-fi short film, and I think we shot it end of last year, but there was nothing saying like that I was Hispanic. It was just, I was in a spaceship, I was the captain, and that was pretty much it. And what I loved about what you did is having us talk in Spanish. That was so beautiful. But also like Victor's character and myself, we had a very high position in this world. And I think that was so beautiful because it allowed all of us to be to show the audience a different side of what Hispanic characters can be, and also like what Victor was saying, like we're Venezuelan, and the dialect, the accent is a little different, and allowing people to say like, oh, there are other national or like other places that speak Spanish that is not just Mexico. Like we span outward. So I thought that was so empowering, because as a kid growing up and not seeing myself represented in the American market, and now being able to do something that is in an American market, being able to speak my language, and then showing future artists seeing like, hey, you don't have to take away, forget to speak Spanish just so that you can fit in. We can all fit in and tell a beautiful story. And so I commend you for that. Not a lot of writers want to do that.
No, it was great fun, and we were Elaine and I were both so pleased at the warmth of your performance, because the thing about that character is she's strong, but she's incredibly lovable. She's so warm and so and so when the father says, if you weren't marrying her, I'd marry her myself. It's a great joke, and I also like how many jokes are in the scene, because it's an extremely painful scene, because it's about he was disowned by his father, and his father's very wounded because he feels that Victor abandoned him, or Victor's character abandoned him, and there's a lot of wounds in that scene and a lot of emotional pain, but I offset it with the humor so that, you know, and I give every character has a humorous line where it's like, the father says, well, what self-help book did you just read? You know, it's like, it's like, that's very funny. Or when your character says, well, you know, I'm a better pilot than Jorge, you know, and it's like, but the fun part is with that line, it's true, but it's also funny. And so you get a sense that there's a competitiveness, but not a destructive competitiveness in the relationship, that they love each other, and it's fine that he has more to learn. He does. And so she's comfortable in her proficiency, you know, and proud, and doesn't mind boasting a little, but there's no sting to it, you know. It's entirely a warm and welcoming vibe, you know, which was terrific. And you get a sense that Jorge is offering his father a family, you know, and he's risking the rejection, risking opening that wound, because he sees a possibility in the future that can be very, very good for all of them. So it's really, you know, it really, I love the scene. I love where it goes, and you guys did a great job.
You know, it's actually, there's an interesting thing that I was thinking about, that maybe it's not something that you would catch right on, like as a first watch of it, but there is a beauty if you're able to find and realize that in a world where we immigrants, especially from South America, or places where people who are displaced, the idea of moving from one place to the other often comes from a place of, we had no other choice, and we're being pushed, and then we're going to a place where we don't want to be. But somehow, but here the beauty is that this is completely different. Like, this is not about leaving a place because it's no longer a place where there's an option, but rather expanding our roots to go beyond where we were, because suddenly we're thinking bigger in the idea of how we grow as a society, how we grow as culture, how we grow as family, and the concept of what can become our home. And I feel like that's one of the things that I love about Borges, about myself in the scene, because I love the fact that it's like, I feel like the whole, like for me, like the whole galaxy can be a part that I need to protect. Like, that is my calling, is that ability of saying, the same way that I would fight for all these people and protect them because they're human, the same way I would protect this entire area, this entire place, this entire galaxy, the existence of life, because it's about protecting life from the dangers, regardless of where it comes from. And so that ability of thinking in that broad spectrum, it sort of hints or honors the idea that we have to be more open-minded and just care for one another without the limitation of borders and frontiers, because once that frontier is diluted and another one comes, that shows us that there is no line. There is really no line. We just keep going. We just keep moving forward, and we keep making all of this our own.
Yes, I agree. And again, in these times, see, the wonderful thing about science fiction is it can comment on the present moment, but it takes it out of the present moment so it can be more universal. And I think in these times, you know, it's so important that we see that the entire world is our community, and that all of us are part of our family. You know, but that doesn't mean that we have to erase our differences. We celebrate our differences, and it makes for a larger. I mean, it's just great. It's just great. I'm so glad the scene is in Spanish. You know, I think it's really fun, because now that Netflix is having shows that are in different languages, or have a multiplicity of languages, people have gotten used to watching scenes, and and after reading subtitles a little bit, it falls away, and you're just in the scene. You're just, you know, you're just with the characters. And also another fun part of this episode is because it was monologues and 2 and 3 character scenes, it allowed us to get a view into a number of characters in a very different way than when we're, you know, fighting monsters or whatever. You know? So I really welcomed that opportunity. And you know, and it was just, I mean, Elaine and I watched the completed scene over and over, and, you know, we just say we're just so pleased with it. And, you know, and again, it stemmed initially from the fact that you, Victor, as an actor, you have such warmth and such intelligence and such, you know, it just seemed like such a great guy. And one of the things I do in casting is I try and find actors who have a certain emotional core, and then I have that be the core of the character, whether it's Doug Jones or you, or Ethan McDowell or Brian, you know, once you get to meet them, you say, this is a great person, and they're able to project that in performance. And then as soon as I see who the person is and I get to know them better, I then start expanding the character and showing more sides of the person. So it was really, really fun. And so I love doing this scene, and all three of you were just terrific. And you believe that history, and you believe that family, and you believe the relationship, and you know it's going to be a good marriage, that you guys are going to be good parents, and that he's going to, you know, thank his lucky stars that he had the courage to go to Mars. And I love that line that I came up with where you know, Doris's character says, you know, fear can be a limitation or it can be an invitation, you know, because if he gets past his fear, he has an opportunity here, you know, and I like that realization that we're all going to be afraid of something new or of something we haven't done before, but if we take the leap, it usually works out really well. So you know, it's really fun, and but this is the first time I've ever had a scene of mine translated into another language where I just had to trust that you weren't having to say God knows what. You know, it's like it could have been completely different. But no, it was fun. It was very, very fun, and you know, so anything else you guys would like to say about this experience? I'm so thrilled to have you, and we're definitely going to continue this ongoingly in the show and have many more opportunities as we continue with Space Command, and of course all the other shows we're creating now. So anything you'd like to say about Space Command or about the fans or about the way we're doing this bizarre adventure?
Well, for me,
Mark, go ahead, Doris.
Thank you. For me, what stood out the most was when we got to see the finished product, because we had everything shipped to us, like the wardrobe and everything like that. And then, you know, I'm in my bedroom, everyone was in their own home. And then when you showed us the finished product, like my window, which kind of looks like this, was turned into a window from outer space. And I just in love with that, because to me, it was such a small little change that, you know, the viewers are probably going to look at it and be like, oh, that was probably green screen. It's like, no, it was an actual window with black plantation shutters that you guys transformed into outer space, and you can even see like the clouds floating. So it wasn't even just like a picture, like you guys added dimension to it. And I just thought that it was so lovely, because right now everyone around the world is in the same position. We're all quarantined, and for you to be able to still want to create something for the fans and allow us the opportunity to do stuff makes it so much better. And then it also allows all of us to be kind of in the same place, because as actors, we would have loved to have been on set with the cast and the crew and the cameras and everything like that, and we had to make it work with just being by ourselves with our reader. And we kind of always like came together of like, wow, we're doing something for our fans, because they're also stuck at home, they're also isolated. So here is this family who is more so Carlos's character, isolated from those that he loves, with an opportunity to one day reunite and come together again. And so I thought it was just beautiful. I think the fans are really gonna love it, because it's being done for them.
Yeah, well, thanks. And again, as I say, it's one of my favorite scenes in the episode. I think it's just wonderful. And again, I was coordinating with my editor, Dave Edison, to put in some elements of the fact that you and Victor's character are on Mars, but not to overwhelm the emotion of the scene or the characters. It's a little thing. It's never too much. You know, it's a little bit of it. And then again, at the end, where Jorge says that his dream is that you'll look in the canals of Mars someday with your whole family and go, I'm a Latino, but I'm also a Martian. And that was, again, a riff off my friend Ray Bradbury, my friend and mentor Ray Bradbury, because in the Martian Chronicles, he has a family look in the canals of Mars and say, you know, we're Martians. We're the Martians. And so, again, I'm bringing some of the science fiction history, but also the history of who this family is and their experience. And I also, there's also that great tension between, you know, Mama's dead, you know, Grandpa's dead, Grandma's dead, but we're still here. And maybe ghosts can find it easier to get to Mars than we can. so don't let the past mire you in isolation. Be present to who is still here and who loves you and the future you can create together. And so I think it's, and the fun part is that the specificity of the references don't make it less universal, it makes it more universal. Because anyone who has a family, anyone who's had problems with one of their parents or any of this stuff, they identify with this, of where you're trying to find a middle ground. You're trying to, repair, damaged fences or whatever, you're trying to reach across those barriers. And so that was really, really fun. And you guys did it great. It was also, as you say, so unusual to be shooting it during a pandemic, because the three of you, none of you did the scene with each other in real time. So it was only when it was finally put together that we could all see all of those great moments of interaction that really, really, really pay off. So it was great. It was great. So anything else you'd like to say before we head off into our...
I just want to wish you all the best, all the success in the world, Mark. This was a risky move from your part, and I think it's going to pay off. It says a lot about your personality and how far you're willing to go to offer something of quality to the audience. And I'm glad I was a part of it. So good luck and
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos.
Mucho éxito. Mucho éxito.
Mucho éxito.
Yes, mucho éxito.
Yes, well, we'll have a lot more adventures in the future, and it'll be very fun to be in a room together when the pandemic is finally over, where we can actually, break bread together. I look forward to that very much. And so, but thank you so much for all of your wonderful work. I'm thrilled and I'm honored to be working with all of you, and I'm very happy that we, as partners, created this wonderful scene. So thank you very much, and we'll talk again real soon. Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody.